Since Payload Upward came out, it's been considered one of the greatest maps in the game. It contains every single successful aspect of a proper, or at least surpasses every bar for what we perceive as good in a Team Fortress 2 map. It nailed the payload formula so flawlessly that by its own nature, it became the gold standard, a template for community maps even up to this day. And the irony in that is how this perfection made every successive map that copies from it more sterile than the last comparison. But specifically, such that even playing Upward itself now will leave you feeling this hollow, vanilla, predictable feeling. Every sightline, every Uber timing, every push past shithouse, all of these moments are now so diluted and samey. Like what felt genius initially now plays like the 2 Fort of Payload. The gameplay has become archetypal and copy-paste. Not in the base nature of the game, where a spy dies to a pyro or a medic may drop an Uber before a push, but in the predictable way people play Upward and the derivative maps after it. It is so omnipresent in the spirit of how the game is played that it makes playing Team Fortress 2 feel dulled, like background noise. Retroactively generic amid its sea of imitators. Boring, not because it's bad, but by overexposure. Its perfection was normalized into something forgettable. Well, first off, let's set some definitions here and understandings. What is Upward? To most people, it's Dario Casali's Sistine Chapel, and it is blasphemy against one of Valve's most prolific map creators to criticize any said maps of his to many Team Fortress 2 fans playing today. Dario was responsible for a majority of maps from Gold Rush to Cactus Canyon, but Upward has grown to become one of Valve's greatest achievements in multiplayer gaming. It's a 4-point payload map based on the traditional abandoned mine shaft. That's the TF Classic secret base, but it's inside a mountain. We all know the thematic approach. The blue team is arriving from a boat via a gondola to detonate a payload inside the center of the mountain. The name is self-explanatory. The map thematically takes players and deeper with each point until they reach the center, and the level itself goes from extremely open spaces and tall skyboxes to the last point, D, where the map locks down and becomes a standard run-of-the-mill Team Fortress Last, where there are very tight rooms and not much jumping space, with one big choke that everyone hates playing, but has to go through. It's close to the more traditional Last of a Dust Bowl or Gold Rush. And speaking of Gold Rush, one of the most interesting conversations I've seen happening around our favorite slot-filled timeless masterpiece is the history of Valve maps, the original ones I mean, and the levolution of them as they grow up, but more specifically, how Valve makes a map compared to how the community makes a map. But again, more specifically, how the stock maps play differently and why. It's fascinating seeing, for example, how the Last on Gold Rush, which was, again, originally Dust Bowl's Last, became a payload remaster of the map, then became some giant Parthenon with its white marble pillars, and then, like a marble statue, got sculpted to become more and more condensed into modern Gold Rush as we know it. This metamorphic process led me to a few individual conversations with friends and online strangers about their own favorite maps and the best maps in the game. Everyone has their picks, the idea of the top 10 definitive list for casual, right? Like what's consistently being played. Well, considering how casual matchmaking works, it's obviously going to be the game modes that last a little while, like those long games of Capture the Flag or Payload. But I think we all have an idea, and it consists of the usual suspects of the latter game mode, which involve, without a doubt, the 2 most popular payload maps, Badwater and Upward. I have played Payload Upward over and over and over again, all across my time spent playing this game. I've subjected myself to different queues and experiences as far and as unfortunately long as the casual queue takes to load, exclusively queuing for the maps that, in my own subjective taste, at that moment, I might find, interesting or fun. Like when you may be queuing for Hoodoo or some tasteful control point maps like a Fastlane or Freight. This feels like adding a little spice to the routine when you get on. But this upward fatigue that I feel, I'm not sure where that started. Perhaps it's the sheer longevity of it all after 10,000 hours in anything, right? You may start to loathe the very shape and sight of it, whatever it may be you're doing. This does not apply to everyone though, of course. The truly dedicated to their craft find harmony in, doing what you love, never working a day in their lives. Yet, for me, a slow, intricate distaste for Payload Upward has taken root, one I cannot quite pinpoint in time as to why. As when I look back on those nights nearly a decade ago, hunched over, poor posture, with the cheap Dell laptop, as I looked over *_ and Muselk's videos, Steam guides, and various Twitch clips, dissecting the Blue Spawn soldier rollout, the famous one, you used to see it in all the market gardening montages or frag movies, the way to rocket jump, all the way to last, surfing past sentries, how someone like might have taught you how to decloak around playground and position yourself not just competitively, but precisely where your team is in that present match and where they might need you most. And despite all of this practice or training on the map and offline on the map, it still has such a bitter feeling. Maybe it's because I got so attached to Badwater, late night Badwater specifically. It's not a hard concept to understand.
It's
Late night Badwater consists of staying up so late that the queues for normal Badwater essentially become like a warp to the past, the weird present, and the just profound and absurd insights into late night Badwater humanity. It can be fun. It's usually fun if you just queue with only 2 people, preferably you and someone who is a medical masochist or thinks that medic is a high IQ class. I think we all have one of those. Either way, the possibilities for what you will run into are basically endless. You might get focused for some random reason. You might go against the competitive stack of people who just finished their scrims. You might go against the usual cheating stack, and you know the ones. They have a set of painted hats and sets of all of their snipers with bizarre bargains. I never queue exclusively for Upward, so I can't say if it's a similar experience to any of these things from Badwater. Honestly, I don't know anyone who would do that and queue for Upward. I do know people who do the same for Dust Bowl, though, and Dust Bowlers are even more bizarre than any other TF2 player. So why is it that when I look at Payload Upward and the vast catalog of maps that feel like they've taken it as a massive influence, I feel like I'm caught in the Quester's smoke? Remember, there were only 6 original maps at launch for Team Fortress 2. Dust Bowl, Gravel Pit, Granary, 2 Fort Well, and Hydro. Then Badlands came out a bit later, then Gold Rush finally for the first iteration of Payload. But if you look at the first community maps that coexisted with those limited amount of Valve maps made at the time, you can see they all tried to copy the style and ideas that Valve started with. Those early community maps felt like they belonged in the same world because they were built on what Valve showed everyone first. The official maps and most community maps looked flat and boxy at the time of the game's inception. Things like Warpath and Flood Zone were not just simply made maps for the sake of, simplicity. The maps I mean, like when you start playing the game and you go to those achievement servers, achievement idol, what have you, and everything is just an orange box you fight in. No, even back then, players were always chasing Valve's blueprint for good maps. Anything that felt official, but they had to fit the general tone of Team Fortress 2. It's the aspect of maps where we are always fighting in these abandoned factories or ghost towns, right? These overtaken, forgotten facilities that became the battleground for where most of the battles in the game happen. Upward still fits that thematic approach. The blue team appears from a gondola with a bomb featured on Granary, and then the standard song and dance of Payload delivering a bomb to the middle of the mountain as you go upward and inward. Upward is conceptually unique, which is fine. I would go as far to say it has all the perks of Badwater. It's a jolly good time. But to me, it feels like it was the start of something else. It had more deliberate detail. Specifically, just more detail than maps released before it came out, which makes sense, right? A newer map is going to be more polished. Of course, Valve is going to upgrade the quality of their maps over time. It's irrational to think something like Team Fortress 2 wouldn't improve the design of its maps over time. So what exactly is this deliberate detail? We'll take a look at those rocks on the first point. In these rocks, you can hide stickies inside to get really easy kills. This is a compy trick used on setups to drop Ubers and kill unsuspecting players as Demo Man. And it's not just the rocks either. You can find planks that stick out around the map. You can also hide traps inside, even disappear into yourself. Such places even allow you sightlines as Sniper to see and destroy gamers without them ever even seeing you. Badwater has the same things. You can sit on pipes, and there are abusive sightlines that, to some people, ruin the map. It reminds me of the old school hiding spots you would see in Badlands for the early Roamer Glory days. You could hide in so many spots around that map and get cheap, easy kills because of the tired but no less true proverb that TF2 players don't look up. And the faults in most maps, I personally believe, are good. It's map knowledge that gives the knowers an advantage over the people who don't know. And I don't mean the over-the-top exploit of building sentries under spawn, not that kind of exploit, but on the grounds of, again, sitting on a prop and having players with a too low FOV that can't see you. In the same way, when you're starting and you don't know where health packs are on a map versus actually knowing where they are and it saving your life because you know the fastest way there. It's things like this that give each map character. Upward feels like the modern blueprint for TF2 map design. It is the cornerstone of Payload. It catalyzed the genre, set the alignment, fixed the intent, and gave everything built after it a clear orientation. Its level of detail became the standard, not the kind of excessive modern detail we see now that bottlenecks CPUs or bleeds frame rates, but detail that serves readability, flow, and play. Upward's layout and construction compared not just to Badwater, but to nearly every other map that came after established a platinum blueprint. Upward is a perfect circle in a game full of sharp-edged shapes. It passes every shape test without worrying about ever being caught on its own edges. And Badwater, by contrast, is a perfect rectangle. Two long stretches that are linear and complex, two shorter sections that are tight and choke-focused. It's so perfect. I love Badwater so much that I could talk about it for 12 hours, but thinking about it now, no one really tries to make new Badwater anymore. No one makes a Badwater map. They do not build maps from its ideas. They just keep refining Badwater itself. And have you ever noticed that? It's only Bloodwater or Cornwater or Goodwater. And yes, Snowwater, and I'm sure Pro-Water exists, Badwater Pro, and I could go on. It feels like no one is making these Badwater-styled maps. Those once clean, boxy, square spaces that are simple, but their simplicity allows for complicated situations and serve as a perfect arena for the game. What feels like repurposed levels from, Unreal Tournament or Quake 3, as you cannot really go back to the box era. A few maps come to mind immediately. CP's Lazy Town or Wacky Races. They were unapologetically boxy, and that was the point. They reused assets, especially on Wacky Races. The creator clearly pulled pieces from Two Fort and Dust Bowl, and honestly, I don't think anyone, even longtime old heads who still play the maps, ever minded. Those maps play classically, and they read like sketches, that rough, unfinished charm that was part of their identity. Once Upward landed, maps began to branch out and take on a more distinct flavor and push a much clearer sense of identity. And talking about the general tone and theme approach regarding maps is unfortunately super abrasive to people for some reason. Like, even Valve got tired of the New Mexican desert and started making alpine maps like Sawmill before Upward ever came out. The locations changed in subtle jumps. One map on a mountain, one map in Japan, one in Brazil, and we keep trying to find relevant topography and capitals or cities that no one has used before, and I just want to know what happened and why, you know? My intention is not to rage bait or stir up the tired old maps good, new maps bad argument. It's not meant to be a hit piece on how the game plays now versus then, but if we are talking about these older maps, the game did play differently at the time. New weapons and balance changes across the classes, those older layouts can be now exploited in genuinely interesting ways on these older maps. When Badwater came out, the people working on it probably never expected a soldier or a demo to parachute across the skybox and shoot rockets or deploy stickies above various little sentry cubbies. And Upward's Hill, you know, the one with the cliff that everyone gets knocked off, was never intended to be spammed consistently with loose cannonballs, knocking players back to their death. Just like dealing with short circuits on Dust Bowl's first spawn or any Dust Bowl spawn. I don't even know a good metaphor for it. It's like comparing a trampoline park that just came out, like a Sky Zone, to a skate park with a bunch of graffiti and a big community that's still been around it. Both of these maps are well over 15 years old, so it's not surprising that these maps serve as a common hub for various players, especially the old ones, and newer maps aren't really the same. This is not sentimentality, it's pattern recognition. These older maps were built before the full kit of weapons existed in the game, before players could exploit every corner. That absence of foreknowledge created a shared literacy among players, and players learned every angle, every abuse, every hidden interaction they could have, and in doing so, shaped how the maps felt and played. And Upward inherited some of that freedom, but subtly shifted the rules, making such emergent exploits easier and changing the rhythm of how the game plays. That condition is rare, and it's what I'm isolating before moving forward. This mirrors to me modern TF2 maps, which have become more suited to how players branch out with the final kit of weapons we've accumulated over time, you know, the last balance changes since Jungle Inferno. Don't chalk this up to the juvenile old good new bad nostalgia. It's specifically this unique middle ground, like Badwater with its boxy and open layout, evoking a skate park's recreational vibe that feels lost to time. Like, do you really think you can go to a skate park now and get the same Tony Hawk extreme sports vibe you could have gotten in the 90s? Why, you'd have to go back and ask Dario Casali himself what he was thinking when, and specifically when, he was designing Badwater or Upward, compared to the various map makers behind Gold Rush and Hoodoo, what they were thinking and doing. Unfortunately, I believe people will write this off as another serving of the pointless TF2 conservatism proxy war. But it makes me want to pose a simple hypothetical to you. Imagine Art passing a map like Lakeside into the original style of Team Fortress 2. Those 6 maps, something close to a 2-fort or well. Would you like the map more? Would it feel wrong at all? What if that version of Lakeside existed prior to the Egyptian theme we got, instead of arriving later as a reinterpretation? I wish more people thought about and treated art passes as experiments rather than upgrades. If someone reworked Lakeside into that and actually polled players on what feels better visually, tonally, and structurally, I would promise you would see a surprising amount of people preferring the original style. And I don't mean the seasonal reskins or surface level theme swaps for nefarious commercial purposes that we might be used to. Payload Upward does not feel wrong or generically bad to me because it failed in some general design characteristic, but because Upward has succeeded too completely. It solved and changed Payload so much that it became the key to the door of modern Team Fortress 2 design and its design philosophy. And this perfection flattened both itself and everything that followed. Its layout, timings, sightlines, tricks, and rhythms have been learned, copied, and now normalized and repeated to at least presently the point of exhaustion. What once felt ingenious now feels archetypal and predictable, and now feels corrupt and present in how players move, push, defend, and think. Payload Upward became the perfect template, and in doing so, it helped push maps away from their earlier boxy, sketch-like, rough-edged spaces where simplicity allowed emergent complexity, and by pushing the initial away, it has caused the ideas and philosophy of the original Team Fortress 2 maps and design to radically change and go extinct. Yet, that boxy, custom map sensibility I was talking about, it still perseveres and exists. And if there is a better blueprint than Upward for Team Fortress 2, I would ask that you tell me and show me as soon as possible. Someone who told me what they thought as soon as possible was actually my good buddy Alias, and he had no problem sharing his thoughts on Upward with me. And while we didn't delve into every detail I cover here, his perspective is worth sharing with everyone else, and it may resonate with others and illuminate issues I only touched on briefly. To Alias, Upward reshaped Payload's design, which led to steering later maps towards scale at the expense of meaningful structure. It normalized oversized layouts with weak choke control, protracted sightlines that stall pushes, and an overpowered dominance for the game's most polarizing class, Sniper. Modern Upward matches devolve into a loose deathmatch rhythm, lacking the focused pressure of the 2007-era maps, which remain tighter and more intentional, with space flow and chokes that did actually matter back then. Once again, this is merely a glimpse into the insights that emerge when discussing Upward with someone who has already deeply considered what its design is. I'm certain many of you have your own perspective to share after hearing all this, and I genuinely welcome them. I'd love to hear what resonates with you or where you see things differently. And yet, with all that said, I wanted to close and advertise and share a brief note about my own little community. Every other weekend, we run a small gathering, and lately we have been testing abandoned and classic maps through a Sixes lens. Thanks for watching. If this sparked any thoughts or memories, feel free to share them below, as I love reading every comment. And as always, take care and beware.